Do you guys know how to catch a conman who is lying or is toxic, a toxic person? One of the toxicest traits I see on these dark triads, personality disorders, antisocial or sociopaths, narcissists, and yada yada, is that they have rigid thinking and they are incapable of learning because empathy doesn't affect only their feelings for other humans, connection with humans, it affects their intelligence too. And then what happens is like, oh, I'm gonna learn about science, about this topic. And then they actually read a little bit, but they understood it wrong. It's like 2 plus 2 equal 4, and they understood like 2 plus 2 equal 5. And they go around, and that's written in stone now, like it's carved on stone. 2 plus 2 is equal 5. And because they think they've learned it from a book, but they understood it wrong, but they think it's correct because they don't have self-critic, they're very hypocrites and sensitive to corrections and criticism. And that isolates their intelligence in being corrected and fixing a mistaken knowledge they have. So they go around saying like, you know what, 2 plus 2 equal 5. And then everyone who just know the basic of mathematics says like, oh no, dude, you're mistaken. And you can be as polite as you want. It's very easy to catch because you don't have to be a scientist, you don't have to be a genius. You just have to understand a little bit of basic logics. You count a mistake, a contradiction, a misinformation, and you correct them, like you give them the benefit of the doubt. Oh, dude, actually, that's not correct. This is the correct information. 2 plus 2 equal 4. And that's the references, that's the source where I'm taking this information from. Maybe you misunderstood. And they get so pissed. And now they're going to go like in a war against you. How dare you to correct them? You're not correcting their argument, their point of view. You're correcting them. They take everything personal. They don't use arguments usually. They use like personal experiences disguised as arguments. Is the fallacy of appeal to emotion. It's called in philosophy. And that protects them of being corrected. And you can see a person who is toxic and is probably a sociopath or a narcissist because they do not accept at all any type of correction. And if you're talking about a sociopath, they're going to make even worse. Sociopaths and narcissists, I would say. Not so much histrionic and others. If you correct them and they see like, oh, actually the correction makes sense. Maybe I am wrong. No, that's no questioning for them. They are going to create an ad hoc argument, which is like when we had Newton discovering gravity and creating mathematical equations to calculate gravity and all the things, it applies only to mechanical physics, physics that are in real sight, but not to quantum. When something is too far or too close, the Newtonian mathematics doesn't apply that much because the laws are different. And instead of accepting like, oh, okay, our mathematics goes on to here, from here we have to figure out something new, something more appropriated, new calculations. And instead of saying that, they didn't give up and continue trying to create fixings like you have a problem here, a little dot. This here is a problem in your theory. Instead of saying like, okay, then our theory is wrong, not the whole theory, but like some parts of it, you have to fix it because this part is wrong. No, they start creating explanations and exceptions. And it goes round and round. They go around trying to fix and creating more explanations and more like they are going to adding fixings to the theory so they can keep it. And one problem doesn't make the whole gravity theory wrong, as we know today, but before it was like a huge problem. That's why Einstein was approved after, and we accept both arguments. You can use Newton for this, and you have to use Einstein from that. But instead of fixing the contradiction and assuming like, yeah, this here, we said it was going to 2 plus 2 was going to be 4, and we get 5 instead. So instead of admitting like, oh, I miscounted, I was wrong, no, they create an exception. Actually, it's because blah, 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 and then bend the laws of physics and reality. And they are no longer observing the reality to correct it, adjusting their theories according to what they are seeing. the results, they are now creating exceptions and excuses and justifications and just to not admit they were wrong in that part. And that's what comments do on TikTok. This is a very toxic trait that I see in regular people, not scientists, not talking about science anymore. Like somebody's quoting like, oh, you know what, I'm doing fasting type of diet. And then you say like, oh, actually that is very danger to your liver. You can get diabetes because you're not removing the dead cells of your liver doing fasting diet type. You are actually killing them, then removing them. But you're literally harming your liver. You can get diabetes. And they're like, instead of saying like, whoa, shoot, thank you for warning me. No. They go full like, you are attacking me. Now I'm going to talk about it more. I will create excuses to explain the problem that you are telling, that you are wrong, and you are a hater, and you are after me now, and now I have to destroy you. Like, pay attention when somebody cannot take criticism or corrections. And instead, they go creating ad hocs. They go like, woo, add excuse, just to not admit their argument was flawed. They are a waste of time, these kind of people. They love word salad. It's like literally wasting your time because you think you are talking to a reasonable person and you're giving them the benefit of the doubt and say like, oh, maybe this person is just ignorant about the topic and they do not know. I'm going to give them the correct information so they know. And instead of taking the information and at least considering before debunking your argument or a response and blocking you and calling you names and going to all the fallacies that they always go. Instead of taking it and saying like, oh, thank you, I was mistaken. Now I'm gonna fix my speech, my narrative to add this part of the information and I'm not gonna no longer be mistaken. No, they're incapable of doing that. And it applies to everything in their life. If they look at somebody and they decide that person there is a narcissist, and you say like, why you're saying that? The first impression, the first information, the first whatever they put inside their head is written in stone. And it's not going to change. And if they get some wrong ideas or some wrong habits or some wrong whatever, and you try to help them, pointing like, oh, this is actually a mistake, this is the correct information. No, it's useless because as it enters at first time in their brain, as it stays, and they will gonna create a full narrative. I know a guy who is 10 years creating narratives of excuse after excuse after excuse to justify why he is not a narcissist, why he is not a sociopath, why he was entitled to abuse his ex and she was the wrong one. Like, it's like seriously, these people, they breathe oxygen to justify the wrong things that they got wrong at first, instead of just reflecting. They're incapable of doing that, of saying like, oh, I was mistaken. It's okay. Everyone can get mistaken once. It's no problem. Nobody's going to slap you because it's something wrong, you know? They don't. They're incapable of that. And they go spending their whole life energy, or what is left of it, justifying, explaining, ad hocing, and not admitting they are wrong and finding more justifications why they can be like such a cunt, but you cannot. Extreme hypocrite, extreme arrogance, and incapable of learning. So it's very sad. They have to be like that for the rest of their lives because they're sick in the head with that. And that's their karma, basically. They are doomed to be like that because that's how they are toxic. At least you're not, so don't stick around because they're going to make you sick like they are.